Good morning, out here shifting heifers. Today's video is going to be about setting up for winter. So we're only 10th, 11th of October, but now the focus goes on to setting up for next winter, getting crops in the ground, selecting paddocks, making sure everything's done right. So we'll walk you through that process, what we do, and show you all the little things you've got to think about really when you're focusing on the tightest time feed wise in the next 12 months. So got Dad here for a few days, giving us a hand, which is always nice and helpful, get a few more jobs ticked off. Going back to the winter thing, first thing we do is sit down, do a winter review. So we look over what happened last winter, what worked, what didn't work, what crops were good, what weren't, paddocks, animals on crop, all those different factors. And then we do a feed budget. So get out the old Excel spreadsheet, put in all the animals you're going to have on farm at that time, how much grass you reckon you'll grow, what covers you'll start with, what area you have, and then you can work out what crop you need to put in. The car trying to get through the fence. Oh, now you're in the mud. Come on, wee one. What crop you need to do, and it just gives you a bit more figures. So what deficit, what feed deficit you're in, and then as you go through the season you can work out how much hay and baleage you need to make. So that's step 2. So the next part of the equation is selecting your paddocks. So a few things that we have to consider when you're selecting a paddock for winter cropping is it run out? So what's the pasture like in there at the moment? What's the slope like? There's rules and regulations now around slopes. Can't be over 10 degrees if you're going to graze it in the winter without getting a resource consent. So there are ways and means to get around these rules, work with them. The other one is waterways. So for example, for this paddock here, it's above 10 degrees. We can use the paddock up the top as a runoff. We always want to have a runoff paddock. And then for this particular paddock, this is going into Kale and plantain, and we're actually going to graze this in early. So it'll be for hoggets and it'll be for mating. So they'll come onto here about April, and then they'll get mated on this kind of feed, which worked really well last year. So we're going to do it again this year. With that means that we're not grazing it in winter, so we don't have to worry about the slope and the resource consent associated with that. One thing is with kale and plantain is there's always green roots in here as well. So once we've selected the paddocks and worked out which crop you're going to put in which paddock, and we go through and soil test it. So this paddock here is one that we had kale in last year, so it's been worked up, it's had its fert, it's had its spray, just waiting for it to dry out. We had a bit of rain last night, so dry out and then it'll get sown. But yep, so we want to soil test them, make sure that they're not limiting in any nutrients, so mainly pH, Olsen Ps, and then we can easily fix available nitrogen, calcium, lime, a whole bunch of other stuff, but we'll show you a soil test in one of the other paddocks and explain a bit there. Beautiful stuff, this. It's a bit sticky though.
Explain what we're opening.
Not yet. The viewers
exciting.
The viewers can see once we've opened it.
Have we actually said what we're doing?
Well, we're going to say now.
Have we said the platform?
We're going to say now.
No, have you previously?
I don't know. Right.
Some people will recognise
Open her up.
Branding. We're so excited. Wow, this is awesome. So this is to do with the Hill House accommodation. And you may have caught in snippets that we're doing it up and putting it on a new platform. And some New Zealand viewers will know this platform. we've just been sent our official Canopy Camping individual sign, badge, logo that they designed for our property, which they do for all the properties. Amazing. So this goes at the gate.
So when you come to stay, look for the sign. The photographer's coming next week, and it'll be listed.
Next week?
Yeah. Yeah, and it'll be listed not long after that. So stay tuned, and we'll update you when it goes live. So while we're opening packages, I've got this other one here that we got sent by a viewer. Sorry about the blood on the knife. Wire tighteners.
Okay, so just feeling a bit loose.
Feeling a bit loose.
Yeah, a bit loose.
Oh, look, there's one for you, Genna. There's a pink one.
Why is that not your one?
Pink's not really my favourite colour. Quick twitch.
It's definitely my favourite colour.
Quick twitch wire tighteners. So we'll give these a go.
That's cool.
Awesome for doing the insole timbers that we've got out the back. So,
Do you want to explain how they work?
oh, I haven't used them. There you go. Instructions there. So we'll give these a crack. Thanks very much. So down here at the lease block, this is one of the paddocks we've identified that needs to go through crop and get regrassed. So as you see, a lot of Kale thistles, these things here, a lot of other flat weeds, real thatchy, full of twitch and brown top. Yeah, but got soil tests with me here. So generally we come through, and it'll be in the winter. We get PG Wrightson's rep to come through on the soil test, 150mm probe depth. This paddock here, for example, pH 5.7, so a wee bit low. Ulson P's of 50, which I don't know, I think something went wrong with the sampling there. They shouldn't be that high. Yeah, so those are the two that we look at for a start. And then of course there's boron and other bits and pieces that you need for a kale crop. So we do that, and then we work with our fertiliser rep and our technical farm rep, so from Wrightson's, and they come up with like a fertiliser plan to mitigate the low results, if there are any, from the soil tests. So for this particular paddock, the recommendation was 3 tonne of lime, 150 kilos of crop zeal boron boost as a starter fertiliser, and then sustain, so some nitrogen 4 to 6 weeks after sowing, just to get that crop to boost away. So that's so once we've done the fertiliser, we've got the recommendations after the soil tests, then our rep will come in again and look at what weeds are in the paddocks. So like I said, Kale thistles, buttercups, what else have we got here? Those are probably the two main ones. And then of course your grass weeds, so things that a big dose of glyphosate won't really kill. So especially the buttercups. So then he'll come in and do a recommendation for spraying out, and then you'll upload all that through to your spray contractor. He comes through, sprays out. So that's what he did yesterday. Came in here, sprayed all of our crop paddocks out. So we've got 2 here at the lease block, 2 at home, and then there was 1 other paddock that he sprayed out, which is going to go into a chicory clover mix for boosting those lambs away, especially the replacement ewe lambs. So this paddock is quite thatchy, as you can see down here. Lots of dead grass, lots of weed mat between the grass and the soil, lots of slugs. Ugh. So a few issues to fix before we actually get seed in the ground here. We might even look at burning some of this. Once it all dies off, we'll chuck the ewes and lambs through here, and they can take a pick out, and then we'll see how much residual that we've got to try and get rid of before we put seed in the ground. So why kale and plantain for us in our system? We have planted fodder beet. Last year was the first year that we never had any fodder beet in the ground. Great crop, huge yields, but for us, the stock performance, especially with ewes and hoggets, so most of the crop that we're putting in the ground now is, or soon, is for growing out ewe lambs into replacements for hoggets to then carry on through. So if you grow them out well, that's their whole lifetime production that you're setting them up for. You're setting them up well. So that's why it's important for us to make sure there's that crop through the winter, so we can just keep their growth rates going all the way through winter. Fodder beet didn't fit the bill for that. For fodder beet, it's a very expensive crop, and if it fails, we've had, it's incredibly expensive if it fails. So we've had, in 4 years, we had 2 failed fodder beet crops just with it being drowned out with the really, really wet winters. So a lot of that was probably paddock selection. In a really dry, or in a normal Canterbury summer, those paddocks would have boosted away. The crop would have been great because of that heavy soils, but the flip side is in a wet year, it doesn't go well. The other one is soil degradation and destruction. So huge amount of volume on a huge amount of crop on a paddock means animals are on there for longer. Quite destructive cultivation, so you can't direct drill it. It's all ploughed and heavily cultivated. So we found, even with ewes or sheep on fodder beet, massive amount of pugging, you're ruining soil structure, and then it takes you at least 3 years to get that soil structure back, which is quite a cost to the system. Looking after your soil structure and your paddocks, what's underneath your grass, is quite important in our view. So that's one reason we went to Kale and plantain, is we can direct drill it. So you're retaining the soil structure, you're retaining the integrity of the soil, so therefore the pugging and destruction of soil and is not a big issue. And then of course, so animals aren't floundering around in mud, especially the sheep that we have on the Kale. Yeah, last year it worked a treat. You would have seen in some of the videos there was a wee bit of mud, especially in those really, really wet times, but they weren't up to their bellies in it. So a lot of that comes down to paddock selection, like I also mentioned, but yeah, it's also crop selection and then paddock preparation. So going forward from here, we've sprayed out paddocks. They're all breaking down and dying. So if we're going to direct drill, we try and direct drill as much as possible. So there's a couple of different drills that our local contractor has for that. One's a cross slot and one's just a tine drill. We can put fertilizer down with the seed as well, so that means that the fertilizer and the seed go side by side, not touching because they'll burn each other, but go side by side, and then the fertilizer's there readily available for the seed once it germinates and boosts away. We found that worked really, really well last year with the cross slot, but cross slots are expensive, so still unsure about what drill we'll use this year, but it will be direct drilled. Yeah, like I said, trying to minimize the amount of cultivation that we do, and trying to retain as much soil structure as possible means better utilization for us on those crops. And then you do have a whole difference of issues, I suppose. So direct drilling, you've got to make sure that you've got your bugs sorted and stuff. So springtails, so we spray out once now, and then we'll spray out in about another 3 to 4 weeks time as a second spray. So low rate of glyphosate, then some chlorpyrifos, which will kill springtails, which is a big issue for germination, and then slug bait will go on just after sowing. So that's one issue with direct drilling, is the slugs, especially in a wet spring, wet years like this. There are a lot of slugs around, but you don't have the weed issues as you would if you conventional till. So if you cultivate, work it all up, you don't have the insect pressure, but you do have the weed pressure. So you're flipping around, and there's pluses and minuses for both of them. So so we've selected our drill, we've put the seed in the ground. That'll be probably around the start of November to about the 14th of November. That's when we look at getting it in the ground. Any earlier than that, and we find the crop starts getting too big. We don't want big crop because of the sheep. We don't want 2 metre tall kale. It's just a nightmare to deal with 3 or 4 wire brake fences. So we want 10 tonne max probably, and then the stem becomes more utilisable. Yeah, which works really, really well. With the kale and plantain at home, we have the option of grazing that in the summer as a summer feed. So if it turns dry, we need to keep those replacements just cranking along. We can graze that in the summer and then shut it up for early winter grazing. Also, one on the hill paddock will be grazed, probably the first paddock out of all the winter feed paddocks to be grazed, because it was on the slope, so that mitigates that slope aspect of grazing that through the winter. Right, so seeds in the ground, it's all drilled, it's germinated. Now we've got to keep a good eye on bugs and weeds, so that's where a good technical farm rep, TFO, TFR, whatever they call themselves, comes in, and they're worth their weight in gold. So they'll come around, check the paddocks that you have sown, and then recommend the sprays and fertilizers. Well, fertilizer plan's pretty much already done, but the sprays both for weeds and for bugs to make sure that the crop is not limited in any way, shape or form. One thing I will say is they tend to try and get the picture perfect crop, so it's always down to a bit of judgment on cost. They're not the ones paying the bill, so a bit of judgment on cost to see whether the recommendation that they're giving you is going to be yield limiting and what your cash flow is looking like. So it's easy to spend money, you just got to make sure it's justifiable. So just coming back from the lease block, of course voting time, general election in New Zealand is this Saturday, so just going to go cast my vote and see what happens on Saturday. So back here at home, did my vote. Yeah, so this paddock here will be going into kale and plantain. As you see here, it's got a lot of docks in it, buttercups as well, thistles, and yeah, of course your normal grass and stuff that's native grasses, not native, brown top, cocksfoot, things like that, poa annua. So one thing I wanted to talk about was runoff paddocks. We always try and have a runoff paddock, so that's why we selected this one, because there's this runoff paddock here, and then next year that will be a crop paddock, and then the runoff will be on the hill. So always mindful about you know, where we are and what runoff paddocks we can use. Timing of grazing is a big one, so timing, or when you jump onto it, how much feed you've got on the farm, what's priority, what's not, the stock classes, yeah, and what the crop is actually for, the purpose that it's for. What else we got on my list here? So hay and baleage as well. So when you're doing a whole farm feed budget going into the winter, if you're using hay and baleage, you need to work out how much you've got on hand, how much you need to make, whether you've got to buy it in, whether you can make it on farm in a potentially El Nino year like this, where things are going to get a bit drier. So a lot of dairy farmers are going to bale grazing, so we sell a bit of hay, so that might ramp up for us, which will be pretty exciting. Works in really well, especially down at the lease block, where we can wean early down there, shut up some paddocks, mow them for hay, get them all baled and away, and then the feed that comes back after a bit of nitrogen is perfect for flushing ewes, ready for mating in the start of March. So things like that work really well in our system, but that's our system. Every system's slightly different. Yeah, what else have I missed? Of course, there's a whole bunch of different crops that you can put in. We find kale works really well with us. Very versatile, high quality, easy on the soil, easy on the animals, easier to transition than fodder beet. So it just ticks a lot of the boxes for us, and then you add plantain into it, and it's just another facet of that too. So it's, yeah, that one works for us, but you know, it's not going to work for everyone. And then one thing I was going to mention is when you go closer into winter, you can actually, if we were short on feed, there's the use of nitrogen. So when you get the autumn rains in March or April, you can chuck some nitrogen on, boost those pasture covers to try and hit your 1st of May pasture cover target. So that's critical timing. 1st of May, you've still got a wee bit of time before things really slow down grass growth wise before winter. And yeah, 1st of May is when, you know, your ewes are mostly ewes are mostly mated and flushed. things are, you know, all the lambs are gone, you've only got your capital stock on, replacement wise, things are, yeah, just very consistent. So that's critical time for pasture yields and stuff. One thing that we're quite lucky at here is we've got the big back block out the back, so poke the cows out there for the winter. We can get up there in a tractor and feed out if we really need to. Good water now, the water supply up there, so that's quite critical to our system, is having that hill block, having the ability to defer graze, so shut up areas on the hill and just let them go to seed, and then you come in the winter, mop them up. So essentially it's like a winter crop, but it's on the hill. It doesn't cost us anything, it doesn't cost us much. Yeah, and that means that we can keep the quality down on the flats where your more productive areas are. Right, wind's picking up. Just got to go and level out the airstrip track with all the vehicles going up and down there, ready for the opening of our hill house. Just need to flatten that off and pack it down a bit. So we'll go and do that, then it'll about be knock off time. But hopefully that gives you a bit of an insight as to what I think about when we focus on winter grazing. If you've got any comments, chuck it down. Let us know what your thoughts, what you focus on, what you look at, what your best crop is. Yeah, oats Italian's a great one, love that too. And we'll see you in the next video. Thanks very much for watching. Alfie. Bye bye.